It's not enough to just have a great product or service at a great price. Every interaction with your brand is an opportunity for a customer-centric experience that builds trust and long-term brand loyalty. In the next session, we'll hear from Sridhar Hariharasubramanian, Senior Director, Solution Engineering, Salesforce India, speaking on Is Your Supply Chain Customer-Centric? Welcome, Mr. Hariharasubramanian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sridhar Hari. I represent Salesforce. I'm a Senior Director in the Solution Engineering team of Salesforce India. I welcome you all to this ET Retail Supply Chain Summit. I'm here to present on a very important topic and extremely relevant to the times that we live in. But I want to ask you a question and pose this as a way to sort of, get this presentation started. And that question is right there on the screen. Is your supply chain customer-centric? It's usually a little bit of an oxymoron to think about supply chain and customer centricity in the same sentence. But hopefully over the next 10-15 minutes, I'll be able to change your perspective on why being customer-centric is extremely important for your supply chain success. So let's dive into this presentation without further ado. This is a safe harbor statement from Salesforce. Please make your purchasing decisions based on currently available capabilities on the product. And again, I want to thank you all for taking time to attend this webinar. I hope you find this useful. Please leave your comments and questions, and we'll definitely try and address them as many as possible. Thank you. So I want to again begin with the same question that I posed a little earlier, which is your supply chain customer-centric? But before we really address that question specifically, let's look at some of the trends and challenges that are sweeping this industry in general. And that fundamental shift that we see, especially in retail supply chain, is the fact that it is not going to be a shipment-centric, view of things anymore. The balance of favor has actually, shifted in favor of the customer. And therefore, it is essential for all players in the ecosystem, retailers, manufacturers, supply chain providers, transportation and logistics providers, to really converge on looking at this, from the point of view of the customer that's actually placing the order and for whom the shipment is being made. Therefore, things like, traditional metrics like, volume, commodity, the origin and the destination of the product, the route, while all these things, are very important, they're not as important today, where, what the customer cares about in terms of the feedback that they're giving, their expectations, their ability to modify an order in flight, the cost of shipping from that customer's perspective, these things are becoming a lot more important today. We are, very safely, we can say that we are in the era of supply chain 4.0. And what I mean by that is that while a vast majority of the orders in retail are, very much placed by human beings, there is a very interesting trend that's happening, which is that now 1% of all the orders of e-commerce are actually placed by machines or things. In fact, there is a very interesting report that Gartner has put out a couple of years ago, which says that this is a trend that is going to increase, where, machines and things will start placing orders based on sensors and IoT networks and so on and so forth. And therefore, we need to prepare ourselves for the upcoming autonomous, supply chain that's, very much, in our future. Part of the other trend that's, really sweeping through the industry is the fact that B2C, orders have really exponentially grown. And of course, COVID has had a role to play in that exponential growth as well. But B2C is becoming a real challenge to B2B supply chain as well, right, from a retail perspective. And you can see, events like these, happening all around us in India as well, whether it is the $1 billion sale and so on and so forth. You see tremendous amount of, shift in the online buying behavior pattern, from various parts of India. And that trend is only going to grow and continue to grow, over the next several years. So what are the real challenges that companies like retailers and others, are going to likely to face in this, phase of these new trends that are emerging. One is, as I said, the customer demand pattern is, really shifting. And therefore, we need to have a real pulse on what customers are expecting from us in order to meet those expectations in a smooth and, frictionless manner. There is also, shortage issues that is plaguing the industry, employee shortages, talent shortages. And of course, COVID again has played an important role in this, where people have been cut off from their traditional workplaces. They've been forced to go back to their native, towns and villages and so forth. And there are also a lot of these, geopolitical issues that are playing a part in, disrupting supply chain, around the world. And, and this only underlines the importance of collaboration. We do live in a globally connected world. We are dependent on products coming in from other, geographies and countries. And we, of course, export a lot of things to other countries. And therefore, collaborating, with parties and companies and governments across the globe is something that is going to become, extremely important, if not already. So how do we meet this challenge? And, a lot of companies say that, the only answer is to move to digital platforms. While that answer is somewhat correct, it is not going to really, solve the problem that easily. And moving to digital platforms in itself is not a very easy task to do, mainly because many enterprises, such as retailers, are bogged down by having data in silos in their own organization. They are dependent on, what is called as the two-step IT, where the consumer front, applications are running at internet scale, whereas there is a lot of legacy systems that is really the underpinning of those systems, which are running at a completely different pace, which leads to very disconnected experiences from a customer standpoint. And these fundamental issues need to be addressed, if you want to be successful, from a supply chain and logistics perspective. But before we look at that in a more detail, let's do a quick recap of what does that shipper's journey look like, right? And keep in mind that when I say shipper, I'm again talking about it from a very consumer-centric standpoint, where it starts out all the way from doing some research, narrowing down your options, getting a quote on the preferred shipper that you like, placing an order, the product gets picked up. There are a lot of other ecosystem players such as the warehousing, the freight forwarding, the ports and others, they get involved in it. Ultimately, the product gets, dropped off at the customer's location, and there is invoicing and then, feedback and so forth. Therefore, if you really look at it from a customer's perspective, the questions that we all need to be asking is, how much will it cost to ship? What if I need to change the drop-off location? And look at the way the questions are framed. This is all from a customer's perspective. And these are the questions that any retailer, that needs to be, answering them in order to, really get ahead of their competition. How will I know whether, this product is going to be late? And if I need to get a, status on the current order, how do I do that? Can I do that in a self-service manner? And why am I being charged, or why am I being charged extra for something that I thought was going to be free? And last but not the least, can you guarantee that delivery time for me? Because that's very important to me as a customer. So how do you really do that? So from a retail supply chain and logistics, standpoint, Salesforce has something called as the Customer 360 digital platform that enables you to provide answers to those, very questions that we just saw, with a plethora of, applications and solutions that have been built on the Salesforce platform, which of course, many of them have been built by Salesforce. We also have a lot of partner applications that augment the capabilities from a supply chain standpoint for retailers. But it starts all the way from providing sales capabilities, customer service capabilities, targeted marketing so that you're able to address the right customer segments and audiences, being able to provide a marketplace so that you can bring suppliers and buyers together on a common platform, providing you deep insights, and analytics, AI capabilities, through our, Einstein platform, to really analyze your data and really analyze the KPIs that are pertinent to you and that are relevant to you. And also by bringing together data from various sources, because supply chain again is one of those functions where you are dependent on a lot of players in that shipping journey that I talked about, right? You have third-party players, you have retailers, you have manufacturers, you have OEM vendors, you have last mile logistics players. Therefore, the data that exists in various silos need to be brought together in order to fundamentally understand who your customers are and what they want from you. And of course, on top of it, we also have a lot of pre-built industry solutions that make the job easier for you, help you to go to market in a lot quicker time frame. And so, many of these things are really designed to help the supply chain, industry from a retailer's perspective. But of course, we apply the lens of a customer, when we look at some of these problems. So the connected vision for us really is to help deliver a single source of the truth of that customer across multiple touch points and channels, and drive digital engagement, right? We all know that digital is something that is here to stay. Therefore, for us, it's very important that we enable our customers to engage with their customers and consumers on a digital first platform, which ultimately again is going to give them those insights that will make those products and services a lot more customer centric. So the first solution I want to talk about very quickly is our supply chain and logistics 360, where we have the ability for a shipper or a carrier to cover the entire gamut or the entire life cycle of shipping, right? So for example, what you see here on the screen, for example, is the way you start marketing your products and how you sell them to whether it's B2B customers or B2C customers, how you service them based on their needs and queries, and how do you maintain that relationship over a period of time, and resolve and reconcile complaints if there are any, and receive that feedback and then close the loop with them, and then you are integrating the insights again back into your marketing campaigns and so forth, right? So this is a true life cycle of a shipper and a carrier, and we provide solutions in all those areas. So the key points to remember here are that we not only help you to build the 360 view, but we also help you to give you a centralized dashboard that we call as a control tower, so that you're able to really monitor all your partners' activities from a single console, and you're able to surface data and specifically surface problems with various systems, so that you're able to address them proactively, and you're able to predict the performance of those events, so that ultimately they're able to match the demands from your customers. This, as I said, it leads to a single view of the customer, which is something that is really important. If you look at it in a more specific manner, it's about providing those knowledge base articles and field service, where your associates are interacting with customers on the field. We are able to do targeted marketing across all engagement channels. We are able to collect data from those sources and analyze them, and really complete the entire process, whether it's from quote to cash or lead to pay. These entire processes can be automated by combining those information silos onto a single platform. Here is a quick example. It is of a large shipper that works with many retailers around the world. And in this particular example, what we've helped them to do is to really take that insight and visibility into data, and by applying analytics on top of the data, we've been able to bring about massive improvement, not only in terms of customer satisfaction, but also in terms of reducing the turnaround time to service those customers, and ultimately help their customers adopt Maersk in a much larger fashion. The second solution is about establishing a marketplace. This again is something that many retailers, e-commerce providers are realizing, that it is a great market to bring about both suppliers and buyers, or shippers and buyers onto the same platform, and establishing a true marketplace because this really builds on the network effects and the economies of scale rather than serving individual customers on your own, right? So here you are able to leverage the entire ecosystem to deliver great customer experiences. And again, if you look at the entire value chain, we are able to service all those needs from a single platform. How do we do that? We provide visibility into shipments. We can look at real-time quotes and booking capabilities on our platform. By integrating with various systems which may be even outside your company, we are able to deliver those self-service capabilities and surface the problems across multiple interaction touch points to bring a single holistic view and a platform on which all those ecosystem players can be enabled for success. This is again a similar sort of a paradigm where great capabilities are available to from customer service to analytics to contract management and life cycle management of the entire shipment life cycle. And all of these capabilities are available at the fingertips of employees and who could be working from anywhere. And that is another paradigm which is a reality today because of COVID. But we want those employees to be equipped with the information to be successful from anywhere. The last one that I'm going to cover is about intelligent analytics and logistics. So if you are a CEO, you're going to be asking, where do we need to invest in? How resilient is my operations? If you are a customer service person, you're going to be thinking about, am I delivering to customer expectations and what can I do to improve them? And therefore, again, the emphasis here is on analytics and the data that you have with you, that you're collecting from various sources. And in order to really make sense of the data, deep insights are required. But those insights can be something that you can deliver only if you have the right tools. And this is not about going and building an army of data scientists, but really giving the tools to your business users who have drag and drop interfaces, and they know the business better. And it's about getting them to ask those crucial business questions and getting the answer at the click of a button, right? And this is an example of a dashboard that we've enabled for a retail logistics company, and it really gives you a cockpit dashboard like view in terms of really bringing all the information together, right? And these towers or control dashboards can be again made available for different functions, be it your sales teams or your field service teams or your marketing teams. Everybody can look at supply chain from their own perspectives and draw insights that are relevant to their business and how they can ultimately still have that customer centric view in their mind and solve some of these problems. And I just want to leave you with a couple of use cases, especially that are important from a retailer's perspective. A lot of retailers depend on third-party logistics providers to deliver the products, but I think it's important for them to really analyze that last mile capabilities which are in the hands of other third-party companies that you may be partnering with. But retailers really need to keep an eye on this, because this really has a big impact on customer satisfaction rates. It has a big impact on customer centricity, because in today's world, there is really a race towards delivering products quicker and faster. But this is a model that is fraught with a lot of risks, and therefore retailers who are making these promises really need to analyze this down to the last level to make sure that customers are satisfied with those services. And of course, this is another example which is also important from a retailer's perspective, is around warehousing. And do you have the right inventory? Are you able to match supply with demand? And are your warehousing providers in a position to keep up with the demand? So these are insights that you can share with your partners and make sure that ultimately your customers are happy with your product. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is really the advent of artificial intelligence. This is, in some sense, putting the AI back into retail and into supply chain. If you notice, both of them have the letters AI in it. And I think, again, it goes back to the point about really, drawing upon insights. But this is really more about, prediction, forecasting. It is about, route optimization. It's really, taking the data to the next level and being able to predict if something is going to go wrong. And if it is going to go wrong, what are the alternatives that I can put in place so that I'm able to bypass those problems, or at least provide a temporary workaround to those problems. And ultimately, AI is going to be, a very important toolbox for you to build those agile and flexible supply chains, which, as you know, in today's world are extremely important. I think, COVID really gave a wake-up call to a lot of retailers to not depend on, suppliers and vendors only based on cost or efficiencies. But I think the new KPIs that retailers are looking at are, agility and flexibility. And I think AI can really help you to understand what are those areas where you need to be flexible and where you need to be agile, so that ultimately you're not dropping the ball and you're still able to service your customers in a efficient manner. And here is one example of how a consumer products company called Henkel, which is really a household name in Europe, and they sell a lot of products in India as well, how they were able to use our analytics platform Tableau to build a digital first supply chain, where there was a lot of visibility and transparency provided to its users. It also helped to build a sustainable supply chain, because this really helped them to decrease energy consumption across the board. And at the end of the day, they were able to really democratize the use of data and insights by making it available to more than 2,000 users across the entire corporate environment. We are proud to really call some of these customers and logos as our partners and trailblazers, especially in the retail segment. We have great representation from across different segments and verticals within retail. And we are also proud to really partner with a lot of the logistics providers, which really are the underpinnings of being able to deliver the great experience. And we'll be more than happy to talk to you about specific capabilities that we can deliver to power your supply chain and make it customer centric. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hariharasubramanian, for such an informative session. Certainly, this will help the brands to manage their supply chain, keeping customers as the main focus. Now, let's move to the next session.